week ago on Labor Day. There was a guy climbing the Millennium Tower. Remember Brett Burkhart running in here and going, there's a guy climbing the Millennium Tower. Going, what the hell? And it was an interesting story that day, but people do this sort of thing from time to time. In fact, this very man does this thing from time to time. And my first reaction was, well, a nice little feature for that day while it's happening. As I read about Dan Goodwin, the story got far, far more fascinating than just that climb. When he talked about the World Trade Center, which he climbed and had involvement in trying to come up with a defense plan for, a rescue plan for, in case people got trapped in the upper stories. When he talked about recovering from stage 4 cancer, in the news in the past week, of course, because of Michael Douglas. When Michael Douglas was on the David Letterman show and said he had stage 4 cancer, you could hear gasps from the audience, from people who knew what stage 4 meant. And on, I thought, this is a far more interesting story than that one day. Dan Goodwin, or SkyscraperMan, as you're called, or SpiderDan, welcome to KGO. How are you?
Thank you very much.
Let me ask you first, what the hell? I mean, seriously.
You know, it was one of those things where I had been working on this book for a while. And a lot of people, you know, since 911, I actually had a book with my agent in New York on the day of 911. And he gives me a call and he says, you know, why didn't you tell me about the last chapter? And the last chapter was titled the Skyscraper Defense Act. And in that proposed a new department within Homeland Security, and it'd be called the Skyscraper Defense Department. And it would create within each city a special unit that would be the elite of the elite, team that would be specifically trained and equipped to fight fires and rescue people in towering skyscrapers. And, you know, he goes, God, I wish we knew about this beforehand. I said, well, you know, I've been talking about this for years, and now that 911's happened, you know, he looked at me, he goes, yeah, now that 911 happened, he says, you know, you're going to really have to redirect this book a little bit. He says, your story is great, but this could potentially be much greater. And I said, well, what do you got in mind? He says, well, I'd focus on 3 things. 1, you know, just look at it from your eyes, your perspective. Was it possible for us to put out the fires?
Yeah.
Just that one thing alone. 2, could we have rescued the nearly 2,000 people that were trapped in the upper floors? And 3, could we have possibly prevented the towers from collapsing? So I was like thinking about it. I remember leaving his office and I'm going, God, it's like, that's a pretty big task to think about that. And that began a quest for reading every single thing I get my hands on from then on.
You know, specifically, and we're going to get to the Millennium Tower and everything you did last week. I also want to get to the whole cancer story. Actually, there's a million things to talk to you about. As I said, as I looked into you, this became a far more fascinating story. You climbed the World Trade Center in, what, 83?
Back in 1983, and I, you know, after I climbed it, I told, you know, a bunch of people, I said, you know, you mark my word, someday, you know, terrorists are going to strike, and we're not going to have any plan whatsoever to be able to fight a fire or rescue these people trapped in any one of these buildings here.
Fly the flag. Fly the American flag.
You know, in all my other buildings, I climbed the Sears Tower, I put a flag up. When I climbed the World Trade Center, I put a flag up. I put up a flag in every one of them. And my dad is a veteran from the Korean War, and it's also my way of, I don't know, being patriotic. You know, it's like I think America, you know, I love this country.
You know? And how did you do it today? I mean, were it really suction cups, and did you have any sort of backup plan?
Well, I would say the best backup plan was my mind. You know, because, you know, so oftentimes, you know, we're ruled by fear. You know, fear of failure, fear of even trying something. And I have to say, you know, looking at the building, I mean, there's this wall of fear that you're facing. I mean, like, it's so intimidating to look up at that wall of glass and go, I'm going to go for this. And I needed to conquer it myself. And in doing so, I felt like I was doing it for all the cancer survivors out there. All the people who are fighting for cancer, I wanted to be the rallying call. It's just like, this is it.